this is a story that I may get passionate or heated about. Who knows? I'm going to try to hold it back a little bit. But Nielsen, which is a famous company that does the ratings for streaming services, has finally come out with their chart of the most streamed movies of 2024. They do shows as well, but, we're going to focus on the movie part. And I just want to say, to no one's surprise, to nobody's fucking surprise, the top 10 streaming movies, which I'm going to pull up now, all of them were first theatrical releases. Every single one of them. Guys, the streaming services will never learn. If you want your movie to do better on streaming, release it in theaters first. The top 10 streaming movies of 2024 were all theatrical releases. All of them. And it's crazy. I'm going to pull up this chart again. Number 1 was Moana, which, by the way, I think that's like 3 fucking years in a row that Moana has been the number 1 most streaming movie, which is why when I would argue with people way back when, I'm sure you remember, Nicholas, I would say Moana 2 is going to make $1 billion, and people were like, oh, no, blah, blah. I'm like, guys, people constantly watch this fucking movie. Like, everyone does.
It's like, actually insane that year over year, it is the most streamed movie, and they still felt the need to develop the sequel as a TV series.
Dude, yes.
That's just so out of touch.
You could make a documentary about the dumb decisions that Bob Chapek made. And, like, just Iger coming in and being like, what the hell are we doing here? Movie now. Like, just making it a movie. You also have in second the Super Mario Brothers movie, theatrical release. Red One, a theatrical release. Trolls Band Together, theatrical release. Minions, theatrical release. Encanto, Frozen, Paw Patrol, Inside Out, The Boss Baby. Now, you may see a trend here of it mostly being kids' films. And yes, that's true. But guess what? If you release a kids' film direct to streaming, it just flattens and dies. There's no life for it to grow. You have to go release in theaters to hit the pop cultural zeitgeist. Then you can get released on streaming and be the top 10 most streamed movies of all time. And I know there are some people that are going to say, well, Red One was kind of an Amazon movie. It was supposed to go to streaming. Yeah, they put it in theaters first because they knew about this. Amazon's the only one that can really get credit here. And yes, it didn't make its money back because they paid people's back-end deals out, so the budget ballooned. But what was the end result? It being the third most streamed movie of the year on the service for the company that made it in the midst of children's films. It's not rocket science. Just put the damn movies in theaters. My rant's over, Nicholas. Your turn.
Well, I mean, there's so... if you think about it at a higher level, right? Yes, it speaks volumes that it's a bunch of kids' animated movies predominantly, right? But that's the thing, right? We live in this generation. We're turning the TV on to keep the kids occupied, right? I do it all the time with myself. I just turn whatever's on, But if you look at the marketing standpoint, right, what's going to affect a kid? Toy sales. Marketing does work on kids. If you have a Minions movie and you're blasting the Minions toys all over Target, yeah, your movie's going to perform better than the Sea Beast and Orion of the Dark, because it's imprinting on the kids, So it doesn't shock me that it is anime. It shocks me Moana is still in there after like 3 years. That's actually insane. And the decision to make it TV, I'll never understand. Probably increase their profit margin quite a bit, though, because it did cross $1 billion. But,
oh, yeah.
I mean, I think there's something to be said that it's animated, that it's kid-focused. And I think there's something to be said that they've all been theatrically. Oh, my gosh, really? I cannot speak. I think there's something to say that it's been theatrically released as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, it just, what also upsets me is that a lot of these were only streamed on Netflix, like Super Mario Brothers and The Boss Baby and Minions. These are all from Netflix only. And Netflix is the company that keeps trying to kill theatrical by going to film festivals and buying up indie films so that they don't get theatrical releases, which I know we've talked about ad nauseum, but having Margot Robbie come in and make the choice of turning down a almost 8-figure deal to 8 figures is like hundreds of millions, right? Like a 7 to 8 figure deal of no, we're not going to do that because we want to be theatrical and taking less money. It comes down to that. And yet this service is the one that could profit the most from theatrical releases. And Netflix did a presentation earlier this week where they kind of talked about all the stuff coming out, movies and TV. And of course, one of the movies coming out in the fall is Glass Onion. They still haven't, or not Glass Onion, excuse me, Knives Out 3, Wake Up Dead Man. And they still haven't talked about if they're going to give that movie a theatrical release, even though the 2-week one they did for Glass Onion was wildly successful, and they left money on the table pulling it out. So, again, this is a topic that I get passionate about, and I'm never going to fucking live it down. It just, I don't understand. I don't understand how this keeps happening. And, like, for example, Amazon is the only one that really kind of figured out what to do, even though they knew they would take a loss theatrically. But, you know, this is crazy. Paramount Plus needs to fucking do it. Jesus, they're not going to be a streaming service if they don't get some money soon.
Well, what's crazy, though, too, is I don't know if I think I have the right Paw Patrol movie that came out. Paw Patrol, the movie, came out in 2021, and it made only, it looks like 151 million at the box office, which is nothing. But you're telling me 3 years later, it's the 8th most watched thing, and, you know, does it have that same pull? Even, I know it didn't do well in theaters, but does it have that same pull without it?
Yeah, and you also have to ask yourself, that was 2021, and probably in the middle of the pandemic recovery. You know,
Exactly.
like I know people who didn't go back to the movies until 2023, which is, you know, for me, I could never. But for, you know, other people, I understand. I think, honestly, I think the first big movie that people went to that aren't in, like, the film circles like you and me was No Way Home in December of 21. So that was...
Mine was Godzilla Kong 1.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I'm going to watch the monkey fight the lizard on the big screen.
And listen, as you should.
Yeah.
I immediately went to Unhinged and New Mutants as soon as theaters opened in 2020. And, of course, I did Tenet. But
what's Unhinged?
Isn't that the name of the Russell Crowe movie where he's the driver?
Oh, I never saw that. Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
You went back to the theaters for Unhinged?
You bet your ass, buddy. I went back right away. No, it wasn't. But, like, it wasn't terrible. I'd probably give it, like, 2 stars, you know? It was fine. I went back immediately as soon as they opened. I was like, oh, shit, I gotta go. I gotta go to the movie. Why are you laughing this hard?
Because I'm waiting for, like, some big movie to come out that warrants going to see it on, like, a huge screen during the pandemic. Godzilla Kong, like, that is the first huge one. And you're like, we got Russell Crowe in a truck. I gotta get my ass there day one.
Yeah, I did New Mutants day one. I did that day one. I did Tenet day one. Like, okay, let me defend myself. So, 2020 was 2 years after I graduated college. And in high school, obviously before college, I lived in a smaller town, and the movie theaters we had were trash. And we didn't always get all of, like, the big wide releases. We only got, like, blockbuster movies. So any, like, Oscar movies or anything like that, or smaller indie movies that I wanted to see, we never got them. So when I went to college in 2015, in a city, it was fucking movie-loving heaven, because I got to go to see everything at the movie theater. And I got so used to the lifestyle, Nicholas. I spoiled myself that when the pandemic happened, I was crushed. I was crushed by the lack of movie going I had to do, especially because I worked at a movie theater at the time. And so I could go literally without driving anywhere. Like, I could just clock off and then watch a movie if I wanted to. And so Unhinged, and it was also, I guess, trying to be like, well, if I still want to have a job, I should probably go to the movies too. So there's that.
Unhinged has a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Certifiably rotten, yet is touting a 77% popcorn meter.
As it should.
And it made, it looks like, worldwide about $37 million.
That's about right. That's about right.
I don't know how to operate the numbers the way you do, so I have no idea about budget going into that.
If you scroll down, I think under the summary tab or the box office tab, it's one of them. You'll see it.
Legs, domestic share, production budget was the production budget was 33 million, so it made 1.1 times its budget.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Before we move on to the movie reviews, guys, this whole discussion has actually got me thinking about one of the saddest theatrical experiences I've ever had. And I'm gonna cut to a single here. In 2020, there were a lot of indie movies that came out as well. And if you know how hard it is to get distribution on a movie, it's so fucking hard. Like, there are no words to describe how hard it is, especially if you're an indie film. And there was this really lovely independent movie that came out in 2020 in the middle of the shit in COVID. And they probably worked for over a year to get theatrical distribution, only for it to happen in the middle of the pandemic. And they probably spent so much money on it that they couldn't back out. And that movie was called Yellow Rose. And it was about an immigrant who wanted to become a country singer while her whole family is about to get deported. And it was such a beautiful, independent film. And I watched it in theaters by myself, alone. And in the movie, I'm watching it, and the movie was sad. So the movie could have made you cry on the content alone. But man, I had a moment of, this movie's good. No one is here to watch it. And at the time, if you remember going back, there were serious conversations about movie theaters could be dead. And I just started crying. I'm watching this great movie that someone probably worked their ass off to get in theaters, and no one's here. If I wasn't here, it'd be playing to empty seats. And I just felt so sad about that. That crushed me when I was watching it. And I liked that movie. If you've never seen Yellow Rose, I like that movie a lot. But yeah.
Has a 87% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 76% audience score.
Yes.
Pulled that up. I'd never heard of it.
Yes. Another cute rom-com I saw was The Broken Hearts Gallery. I think that came out in 2020. I like that movie as well. That's actually one of my more favorite rom-coms of the past 10 years. I really like that film. That was underrated.
You want to talk about a quick sad theatrical experience, though?
Go on.
When I was a kid, when did Avatar 1 come out? 2009?
2009.
So what? That's 15 years ago?
You didn't have to say it with your chest like that.
I can't do math, guys.
Well, 10 years ago was 2015. So 16 years ago almost?
16 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was, however much math is there, because I cannot do math live, guys. I was 11. It seems like what the math is there. And I was so amped to go see Avatar. And I just could not get to the theater, right? Because I'm 11.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the will of my parents.
Yes.
And my dad's like, yeah, we're going to go see Avatar. And it just something came up, right? And we finally get to the theater. We were finally seated down. I'm 11. I'm amped. I've heard all the good reviews. I've got 3D glasses on because I was like, oh, I need to go watch the 3D version of this naturally. Right as the trailers end, they're doing the whole Regal. I think this is back when they had the roller coaster intro. The roller coaster ends. It cuts to black. The movie starts. Fire alarm goes off.
Oh, my God.
It took another month for me to get out to go see the movie.
Oh, that sucks.
Can you imagine the disappointment in an 11-year-old trying to just see Avatar?
Dude, I'm so sorry I went through that. I'll give you another one. When I went to go see Interstellar for the first time, I saw it on a date. I was on a date with my girlfriend at the time. And I'm watching Interstellar. Obviously, I'm loving it because that movie fucking rules. And as soon as it gets to the point where Matthew McConaughey gets to the space station in the future, and they open the door for him to meet his daughter as an old woman. As soon as they opened the door, the power went out in the theater. And I couldn't finish the movie until it was on Blu-ray.
That's awful.
Oh,
that's rough.
Terrible.
That's bad. That's
I was
bad.
so upset. And granted, it wasn't the theater's fault. The whole block lost power, but ugh. Yeah. And here's the thing. They gave me a free ticket to come back and see a movie, and I immediately used it on Dumb and Dumber 2. Because it came out a few weeks later. The duality of man. But guys, what do you think about... We went so off topic. What do you think about all the top 10 streaming movies of 2024 being theatrical releases? And you know what? While we're at it, because we had some nice theatrical sharing experiences, what are some of your sad Give me fucking depressing theatrical experiences in the comments. That's what I want to see.
Does
Just
watching
ones.
Wolfman this year count?
Oh, Nick.